Good morning, everyone. My name is Todd Cochran, and you are listening to the Saturday Morning Tech Show. We've got Andy McCaskey on the lower monitor. We got Rob Greenlee on the upper monitor. Good morning, guys. And I know that we're trying to get Andy a little less whited out, so I'm going to have to bring him up in the his own little window when he's talking, so we can see him a little more. But we're attributing that challenge to Andy running a Mac and not having any control over his camera. So having a little fun here with setups, but it's just one of those things. Good morning, guys. How are you?
Yeah, I came from the chain like some people.
Well, it's Andy, what's going on there is Rob is just running off a regular webcam, aren't you, Rob?
Yeah, I've got a Logitech webcam. I went out and spent $39, and I'm good to go.
So the only thing with Rob this morning is just a little hot on the audio, but other than that,
Oh,
Rob's good. So I was
I
going to
can,
mention that to you, but I think if you go
Well,
down
we'll,
a
we'll, we'll do an A/B test here. I've got a Win7 box that has this built-in webcam. Let me fire that up, and
uh,
I'll just pull the screen off here.
oh, funny.
okay, is that a little bit better?
Yeah, it's better. So
I,
anyway, guys, it's been a very interesting week here, and I'm glad we've got both of you back up on the morning show. And this what's actually nice right now is it's 7 a.m. here in Hawaii. It's not 6, so I can actually get up at 5:30, take a shower, kind of get normalized before the. My wife made me a mocha latte this morning, so I've had that, and so I'm good. But anyway,
cheers,
lots. Go ahead.
cheers. I've got a
Yeah,
latte
yeah,
too here.
kampai. So,
Hmm.
for those of you that are on the show watching today, thanks for coming out. And just as a reminder, we want to thank everyone that's supported us so far. I got to still have the situation going on in Michigan with my cousin's kids and having them being missing, and it's a bad situation. Getting worse day by day, and a lot of you have sent emails, and I know some of you actually had went out and did help support the search that was over in Lenawee County in Michigan. So we appreciate that. And but guys, I got this interesting. This morning I woke up and in Facebook there was I'm going to read the exchange that happened here, and it's somebody that I've known. Oh boy, do I still have it? No, I don't, because I had to reboot. Let me tell you what the exchange was. The exchange simply started like this. It was hi Todd, and it was on a Facebook chat. It's somebody that I've known for a while, and I replied back the person's name, and I said, "How are you?" And the response was, "I'm sitting here in tears at the moment." And I'm like, "Oh, what's the matter?" And the individual says, I'm in UK, and my family were in trouble. We last night we were uh, held up by gunpoint, and we were robbed of our credit cards and cash. So I said, "Oh, that was horrible. Did you get with the police?" And I had been robbed once before years ago in Scotland, and I basically said to him, I said, I said, call Visa and Amex, and they'll get you, your credit cards. So, very, very quickly. All you got to do is you go to the bank, and they'll reissue them, and it's almost immediate replacement policy. So you won't have no trouble. I said, you're out the cash, and he says, well, we've just decided to call it quits and come home, and we leaving to come back to the United States in 2 hours, but we're having problems, quote unquote, settling up our bill, and I'm thinking, okay. So this is when I start to get just a little bit suspicious. And if you check into a hotel, you've checked in and used your credit card to check in. So obviously they should be able to use your credit card when you check out, unless they called and canceled the cards right away. I don't know, but I was looking at his Facebook page, and there was no update that they were going to UK, and just kind of an odd deal. What would your alert go off a little bit when they start asking
I
for cash?
We had a church member maybe 3 or 4 months ago. It was an email exchange, not a Facebook exchange. So it looks like it's that alarm bell inducer has kind of jumped the fence.
Well, what was odd was that this was somebody that if it's the same, I'm pretty sure it was the same person that I've known 20 years ago from high school. So this is, this guy from high school telling me this. Now, if this was just somebody that, and again, I haven't talked to this guy in 20, 25 years. So I don't, so I was like, sorry, but you're gonna call your family members and get you some cash wired out, and
Mhm.
that was my response. But just arbitrarily asking me for cash was kind of a weird deal, and there was no update on the Facebook page, basically saying I have I'm in UK stuck. I've been robbed, or there was not. So I said, you ought to update your status page. That might get you some more help. And the guy was on the internet and all this stuff. So obviously, to me, it was like, no, this doesn't pass the smell test.
Yeah, I would be careful with that one. Yeah.
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 Yeah, no, we actually decided to ring the guy up because he's about 10 miles down the road, and he was surprised to find that he was on vacation.
Oh, he did. He found it.
Yeah, and he actually said that he was surprised, and then I talked with him an hour or two later, and there'd been 8 or 10 people that had called the house, trying to find out if did anyone talk to him and that sort of thing.
So it's one of those things. It was a good, if it was someone that I had talked to in the last couple of years, I'd have said, "What hotel you at? Let me call you." And I'd have picked up the phone and dialed the UK phone number,
Sure.
and got the guy on. It's just a Skype call away, and I'm like, let's give me room such and such, and okay, you're stuck there. Yeah, let me send you $500. It's just
Hmm.
it's one, but yeah, kind of. It was definitely one of those moments, and
Hmm.
I guess that. He's gonna probably be added to my block list on Facebook, but
Yeah.
kind of
Actually, Todd, what we can do is that the three of us can have like a secret code word,
right.
so that if the secret word is in the message, then that hey, send money for real. How's
No,
that?
no. If you the thing is, do
Idea.
you ask somebody you haven't seen in 25 years? Who's the first person you ask? You call your mom and dad. You call a brother or sister. You call somebody within your family's inner circle. That's who you call first. You
Oh, or
know,
some guy that you haven't seen for 25 years. I mean, they're all equally valid, right?
that's right.
Todd, he probably thinks that you're just rich, so
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
doesn't matter, right?
Believe me, anybody that lives in Hawaii is on the brink of poverty.
I've been a podcaster who lives in Hawaii.
Yeah, and who has just invested a lot in studio equipment. So yeah, I'm rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, rich in credit card debt, I guess, right? So
Yeah.
let's talk. Let's talk. Oh, I was getting some feedback there. I hate that when that happens. Don't you hate it when I'm getting crosstalk from somebody. Skype will calm down here in a second, but when you do that, it gets your inner, it hits the feedback in your ear, and you're like, you sound like you're trying to talk. Hey, let's
Yeah.
talk about Netflix on the PlayStation 3. They're going disc free next week, and this is pretty cool stuff here. Well, what did I do? Oh, I guess I know what I did. Let me make that live. It helps if I turn on the good old New Tech IVGA. But anyway, what's going on is they are they have built an HTML5 app, or basically a channel for the PlayStation 3. So what's big about this is they went completely HTML5 route versus some sort of a. That's how the movies are going to come across. And we had talked about this. My team members had on would would companies feel comfortable, or uh, like Warner Brothers and all that stuff, with videos being pushed in an HTML5 format. So that means they're pushing the media to the PlayStation 3 in either M4V or MP4. Doubt that they would use .mov. And unless I'm mistaken, how would they protect that in any type of DRM, being that they're actually pushing that in an HTML5 standard? Do you guys have any insight into that? Or do you think they're wrapping in DRM, or are they just just planning on the fact that the
Well, I think it depends if it's going to be downloaded or if it's just streaming. If
it's
it's
streamed. Yeah.
yeah, if it's streaming, it's going to be an encoded stream, so you shouldn't be able to capture it then.
So the DRM is embedded in the encoding. Is that where it gets dropped in? See, I'm not a DRM guy at all for how it's actually implemented.
Yeah, it's just it's a coding that the stream can have that uh, won't allow it to be recorded per
Right.
se. So yeah, it's not a really challenging thing to do. I mean, it's a fairly common thing, but I'm not sure what the support is with with that with HTML5. I'm not
Right.
sure about that.
Or you could have, I guess, a proprietary codec in an MP4 wrapper,
Right.
so that from an HTML5 standpoint, it looks like a regular .mp4. But then when it gets handed off to be decoded, because PlayStation would have, they could easily update their firmware with a proprietary codec and protect it in that way.
Right.
Yeah.
It is kind of interesting what they've done here. I just think it's I think it's surprising that they really kind of embrace. Well, actually, that they're maybe I'm not shouldn't be surprised that they've embraced HTML5 in this
Mm-hmm.
build out. Another thing that was talked about yesterday, we've known for a while that Roku is going to be introducing into their API the ability to do pay-per-view content. And, quite frankly, that's got me pretty excited from a business perspective, being that getting into the Roku is not the easiest process. And, getting in there is half the battle. So what do you think that just that fact that, let's say, by NAB timeframe, that you would be able to offer up content in a pay-per-view format of your own, and you'd basically be able to put it into that device and make it a subscription only? Do you think that is going to allow, or is that going to, that encourage people to do a lot more, um, you know, I guess for a better word, premium content to put up in a pay sense?
Yeah, I would think so. But so would that mean that like a podcaster would be able to sell their shows? Is that
Yes.
the capability that we're talking about here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it has just tremendous potential. Not only for if you look at premium content, the way that Screencast Online, for example, where they have uh, members, they have public shows and then they have members only shows. I think that this really creates, particularly for technology content creators, the ability to have the technical deep dive type of content that's particularly hard to produce or particularly valuable to a given audience. I think that this might well be what drives the adoption of these sorts of set-top devices.
From my perspective here is that, there's a lot of different, and maybe let's not think about podcasters, but let's think about independent film creators. Let's talk about, there's just this huge genre of people out there creating content, audio and video, even animators that don't get the time of day from the studios. And it just, to me, to be able to say um, to someone that's an independent film creator, you create a piece, and we've got the vehicle now that if it doesn't get picked up by a major motion picture studio, to be placed on a channel somewhere where you can promote it and sell it. Now the challenge will be, I think, for the Roku is they got to get more volume out there. They got to move more units. So, I think Google TV, obviously they've moved a whole bunch of stuff, and they made a big purchase here of a media company recently with that had content. Thought that was interesting. So I think Google said, okay, the the folks at the studios have basically flipped us the bird, So they went out and made an acquisition of a media company, and then they were going to bring content to Google. So I think if I was the major studios, that move by Google, it may be more strategic than earth shattering, but it definitely sending a message out there. Okay, you're not going to provide the content. We're here to play. We're not messing around. We're going to
Mhm.
take our $1 billion of billions and billions of cash reserve, and we're going to buy media to make sure we can prop up Google TV until you guys come play.
Yeah.
Um, do you think it was posturing, or do you think Google is basically saying, "Okay, we're gonna get your business now"?
Well, I think Google has a lot of vulnerability. I heard a discussion about this. New York Times had an article about this eyeglasses company that their strategy was to treat their customers so poorly that they would get all these Google mentions by name, or get all these mentions by name in all kinds of forms and contexts and so forth. But when you typed in designer eyeglasses, they'd be the number one or number two choice.
Right.
And Google really doesn't have much defense against a bad actor who is kind of gaming their system in that way. And the point they were making was that Facebook comes in, and this was a person who was saying that if they were looking for expensive designer sunglasses, they would ask they go with a recommendation through their social network before they would Google it.
But does that, Rob, do you think that makes a difference on this play they're making with Google TV and this, and this all ties back together again to the Roku and their pay-per-view offering. Obviously, Google TV's got the money and the 500-pound gorilla to, make more deals and get these sets in more homes. Do you think it's going to play out? Does it even matter?
Well, I think on the Google TV side, I mean, this is a very complicated topic because you're talking about content that is not making it into these consoles today, um, and how that's going to be supported. I think is really what we're talking about here. And I felt for a long time that there's this kind of this middle tier of content that's out there that's not the it's not the major studios. It's more of an independently produced content. It's not necessarily podcasts. It's not necessarily big time studio stuff. There's this pool of content that's out there that I think needs to have some distribution, and I think it will be sellable. It's just that today you're either at one end of the spectrum or the other, right? I mean, if you hear about what these major platforms are talking about, it's like the big studios or it's like podcasters, right? It's
Yeah.
There's nothing in between. And I think if we can get platforms built that are easier to get content into, that have these transaction capabilities, then I think we're going to see films that get made by independent makers that don't run through these big studios, that just upload directly to these platforms and that can monetize on the actual downloads of these things or streams. It depends on the platform. And what we'll see is this huge growth of new content that comes into these platforms. But the problem is, I think these big platforms and the big studios are kind of scared about that. I don't think that they may not really want to open the gate on that, because then there's less control. And then actually how to monetize these things, I think is I don't think there's anything new there. I think the testing that's been going on with selling on a subscription or a pay per download or a rental or whatever, I think all those models have been built out. It's just we need to support the full spectrum of content that is really available online, and then also will be made because of these platforms. Because I think right now there's a lot of content that would be made that is not right now because there's no real distribution. I mean, just think about all the films that go to Sundance that never get picked up, right?
Yeah.
Those things are being monetized to a certain extent, being put out there in the independent kind of theaters around the country, but that's not going to generate enough revenue for that online producer to really put a lot of energy into making a short film or something like that. So I think that if these platforms can create that kind of a distribution opportunity, I think we'll see a new golden age of content creation come into play here. So that's what I'm hoping for anyway.
Andy, I mean, yeah, Andy, going back to your point, I think Google did respond to that, though, and saying that they are going to start filtering those bad characters that are doing just that. They get 25 bad reviews on a product, and they're going to start demoting their listing. Now, I don't know how they're going to be able to determine. I guess, they're going to have to add some sort of a logarithm to find bad reviews. But for a competitor, that just makes people lick their chops. They say, okay, if Google's going to start demoting websites based upon consumer review, then maybe it's time that we hire some folks to write
AstroTurf.
negative reviews.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you can always game those platforms. That's the problem with that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a tough road to hoe for them. Um, I always, whenever I'm getting ready to buy something online from a brand new company that I've never dealt with before, what I do is I type the company name and I write reviews or complaints or issues or scam. I use about, 8 or 9 different words, and, generally that will very quickly tell me whether or not the company has
Mm,
delivery problems.
yeah.
But I deal, and then hate to say it, but sometimes when I see a deal out there, like right now, I want to buy a new full body Canon camera for CES. So, I have the ability still, being that I'm retired military, to shop in the Navy Exchange or the PX. So I went in there last night and they're all out of full body cameras. Well, I could save myself 5% sales tax because I don't pay sales tax in that facility. I could go right in there and get that and, save myself a couple $100 just in sales tax because of the cost of the camera. So I did want to buy it out in town here in Honolulu because the price was 30% higher than what I could find it online. But then when you go online and you're looking for a camera, that's where the biggest scams seem to be. Is, oh, we got a special deal, add this to your cart to see what the price is, and you add it to your cart and the price is good, but then you look at the company and they're out of Holbrook, New Jersey, and you Google the address and it comes up in a warehouse district, which maybe is not a bad thing, and then you think to yourself, okay, are these guys going to take my money and it's the last I see of it? Do I get a visa to refund the cash, or is there some sort of, so then what do? You go back to Amazon and you look and you don't, you find that deal $200 more expensive and you're back at base zero. So there is challenges, I guess, when it comes to shopping online. And from my standpoint, I at this point I use Amazon a lot to find companies, and I don't know if that's any safer than any other. I don't know. I guess we'll see. But what is your guys' strategy been any different?
Well, I think that gives you a channel to appeal. But to return to the Google
Yeah, sure.
question, I think the thing that impressed me was that we think of Google as being the 1,000-pound gorilla and invincible and so forth at the present moment. But every dog has his day, and I think strategically they are really searching for alternative businesses. When their current version of search goes south for whatever reason, maybe it's the social graph and that recommendation engine, so to speak. Um, the or when curation in some form comes in, that that may be from Redmond, and I saw that they had just had their bid rejected by Groupon, where they
Yeah.
were trying to find a company in Chicago. And so I think they're kind of like a shark in that they have to keep eating and they have to keep moving forward, because if they ever stop, to rest on their laurels, they're dead.
I had that on the list of stuff today to talk about. So I guess that's a great segue. Yeah, they Groupon basically said no, we're not going to take your money, and at least that's what's rumored. Let me see if I can find the article here. I had it queued up, and where did I have it? Dun dun dun. It's in this list somewhere. Um, but yeah, big decision by them, and to walk away from Google, to walk away from that kind of cash. Yeah, here's the article. Let me bring it up on the screen. It says, sources Groupon rejects Google offer, will stay independent. The two companies have engaged in talks with the speculation about marriage reaching a fevered pitch. Google reportedly offered between 5 and 6 billion for the daily deal startup. Groupon said that they were already doing $2 billion. I just read that somewhere that they were doing 2 billion annually. So it's just that's a pretty good point. Why sell to Google for 5 to 6 billion when you are already cash positive at the $2 billion mark? Um, don't need them. Go alone.
Yeah, I would say this is a smart move by Groupon. I'm not sure that selling to Google would have been a good thing for them. I think so. That's just my
Yeah,
opinion. So I
yeah.
mean, if they're making 2 billion now, I can just see them making, I mean, 2 or 3 times more than that here just in the next couple of years, and they could take this company IPO. I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And one thing that the guys in the stream are saying is I have to tell the folks at Ustream that I'm doing 720p. I'm not doing 720p. I'm doing 16.9 today on the stream. What are we pushing today? I'm going to look at the settings. I'm doing 640 by 4. Well, I've got it set up so it's my fault. I didn't have a 16 by 9 codec today, so that's why everybody was getting chopped off. Yeah, so and believe it or not, Groupon does not. I've never seen a Groupon ad on any website I've ever visited. Maybe it's because I live in Hawaii and they don't have deals. I guess what is Groupon is for local deals or something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really excellent because they'll say, for example, you have a fine restaurant where you could expect $70 a person
Right.
for the meal, and they'll say if we can get 100 people on board, for this Saturday, those meals will be $15.
Oh,
But we have to have 100 people. If we have only 99 people who give us their Visa card, no deal.
right.
And so the ability to bring in a crowd is just phenomenal. Now I was looking here in the Wall Street Journal. They said they have more than 1,500 sales and customer service reps who call on restaurants, tanning salons, helicopter tour companies, just every kind of small business engine.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
1,500.
Yep.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot of feet on the street.
Yeah, it is. You can make a lot of cold calls during the day with 1,500 people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
and
that. Yeah, I think that's what Google was really trying to get their hands on here. I think was this local strategy, and I think this Groupon company could be really the next big thing. I mean, I felt for years that kind of local search and local, like the yellow pages and white pages, um, opportunity is really what this is about. And if you take this and you combine it with mobile and I mean, I'm seeing my own wife use this platform. I think she's bought already like, I don't know, 10 deals right now.
Huh.
And and we go out on a regular basis and use these offers at local retailers all the time right now. I mean, it's really amazing. I mean, it's a great coupon. It's really almost like a 50% off type of an offer situation. And it gets people to trial. I mean, I think this concept has been around for a long time, in these little mailers, right, that you get in the mail. Um, you know, these offers for local retailers. And I think that this is like a new area that's been sitting there ready for somebody to grab for a long time.
Jeffrey
But I
said,
think
oh,
that
go ahead.
there's a difference here, though. The difference is this, that if you are a small business person and the Groupon salesman comes in, you have no risk until you get the 100 people to sign up for the deal.
Right.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
that's the thing. You can figure out when your costs are covers or what the tipping point is for your business, and you know those costs, and you can set up a thing that it's almost like a stacked deck, and you're stacking the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an it's interesting concept. Now, Jeffrey's watching on the stream, and he said that there's a Groupon ad on the TPN.TV site, and I'm seeing my very first Groupon ad. So yeah, he's right. Booyah! Save up to 90% on local eats. So I guess I click on that, and it takes me over to their website. Of course, this is my AdSense ad, so I can't click it without violating Google's terms of service. But so obviously I click on that and it takes me over to Groupon and they offer something up to me. So kind of interesting. So we'll come back to the TPN TV site here in a few minutes, but it's a it's a good model. So I guess we'll see. But I'm sure Google is like, crap, they didn't take the offer, and they are. I hate to say it, that even though that they are, well, what it is they've gotten so big, and like some other companies that we know, that they have I think they're probably having a very hard time. It's got to be almost a near impossible task to continually try to beat the competitors in the market by coming out with your own product. If they see something that's hot and they didn't think about it, how do you ramp something like that up? Do you hire 2,000 people and build it from scratch? And it's definitely cheaper to buy it. So obviously they tried. Who knows? Maybe Google will come back and offer them some more cash. They got plenty enough to offer up. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk just a little bit here about HP. And I've sent some messages out to my HP contacts. And be honest with you, I'm actually a little bit pissed. HP dropping Media Smart server line powered by Windows Home Server. Windows Home Server is there's been in the news quite a bit here recently, but HP has completely dropped this Windows Home Server line. You guys know I'm a big fan of this. I know Jeffrey has one. As a matter of fact, it's within arm reach of me. I mean, right down here it sets and it runs 24/7. They're saying
Yeah,
that.
I've got one too.
So folks are saying what the folks at eHome Upgrade are saying is that if you want one, interested Windows Home Server buyers should be able to go over to OEMs like Acer, Asus, Lenovo, Lacey, and system builders like Tranquil PC when the new version of Veil is released. And it says on the HP website that they went back to promoting other storage solutions like the Drobo, which is slow. I like my Drobo, but it's just, again, slow. Um, so anyway, oh, what did someone say? The live stream is not streaming? I think the live stream's streaming. So the question is there, what do you guys think about this move by HP? And did you guys hear what Steve Ballmer said about removing the ability for this to be mapped as a single drive in the new version of Veil?
Yeah, I think
I didn't hear what he said, but I heard that that people were really, really upset that was really the secret sauce.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I mean, if they're trying to take this platform towards a RAID platform, that really defeats really the core function of this platform.
Yeah.
I've got it. Yeah, I've got it running here. What's wonderful about it is you can buy any size hard drive and add it to the storage capacity of the unit itself. Now, if they take out this duplication issue, that means that one of your hard drives, if it fails, you're going to lose data. So I've got 3 drives in mine right now, and I have all of my central storage on duplication. So if I had one of those hard drives fail, I wouldn't lose all my data. But if they go towards a RAID kind of deployment, that means that I'm going to have limited capacity that these things. And I think what they're thinking is that the hard drives are getting large enough now, right? For most users, like I could go out and buy a 2 gig drive easily and drop it in there. And if I have like, one or two of those, if I'm using RAID, that means that, that would be enough, right? To store most of what people need to have stored. And that's probably true in some cases, but there are a lot of users that, like I've got like, I think 3 or 4 gigs in there across 3 drives. So I would have to get, I don't think that, unless the hard drives go up to 3 gigs per drive, because on a RAID, all of your drives have to be the same size.
Yeah.
And you're going to be capped at the size of one of those drives. So I think that's the core issue, and I think that the home server, and I'm not so sure that the timing of this this announcement of HP getting out of the home server business has a lot to do with this, but I think it seems awfully coincidental that they're announcing it right after this drive extender thing gets removed from the platform.
Yeah, and I'm on my second unit. I bought one of the very first ones. It was woefully underpowered, and I could have bought an AMD chip and went in and hacked it away, but it just needed I needed a refresh. So I bought just within the last 4 or 5 months, I bought a new unit, and obviously there was no migration path, but I had all my media really secure. So I put 4 2 giggers in this bad boy, and
Yeah.
filled her up, and it quite literally filled her up. So I guess the thing that I love about it, and the thing that really sold me on it, and again, it was $600, and I probably got another, $600-700 in drives in it. But I was sitting here working on when I first had the first version of this, or the first rev level, and I'm working on a laptop. I mean, my screen went black on the laptop, and it was basically dead. The hard drive in that machine just died, and I keep some spare hard drives here, so I changed out the hard drive in the machine, and I said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, now how do I do this recovery? And it actually, Rob, it took me longer to find the stupid disk for the recovery that you had
Yeah.
to stick in the PC. Once I found that, I had to dig through my drawers for 20 minutes. Once I
Yeah.
found that, I stuck it in the machine and basically turned the power on, set it to boot via CD, and the system came up and it says, "Do you need to recover this machine?" I said, "Yes, I do." And 10 minutes later, the machine says, "Come back in 2 hours." And sure enough, 2 hours later, I come back. Machine's
Yeah.
ready. I reboot it. Bam, I am back to what the machine was. It was at 2 o'clock in the morning the night before. And I'll be straight up. How many of us have spent 2 days or 3 days rebuilding a machine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
I was like, I couldn't believe it. And it, y- I, how much time and how much dollar value is that worth? So I don't know. We'll have to see what Windows is going to do here, but I can
Well,
set it and forget it.
play at home server now. Don't wait until this new platform comes out, because it's not going to be worth it.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
that's
if you get it now, then you can get the previous platform on it.
right.
Exactly.
But has it hit like Tiger Direct and places like that yet, or what's the
No,
channels?
no, it hasn't. It hasn't hit any of those channels yet. Its Veil is still in beta, and and
Hmm.
and Balmer's saying that they're going to review it, but that's they've already kind of publicly said that they're removing. And it's actually drive extender. It's something called. I think that's actually what they call it.
Right,
So,
right.
so another.
I had
Go ahead.
I had a different experience with that, and I had a unit that was an atom chip based one, and it just didn't give me the performance that you guys have had out of yours.
Well,
And so I think that's been discontinued actually.
well, the first version
Yeah.
I had, my Atom one, once it was okay for 2 or 3 machines, but you're allowed to go up to 10. And when I had 10 machines being backed up to it, it was basically just it was choking.
Yeah.
So yeah,
How do you back up your TriCaster, Todd? How do you just plug in another USB drive and manually drag things over?
I have a master hard drive ready to go. A Cronus is what I use. I use Cronus to make a master image and an image file, and then I put that on another drive. And basically, I can, if I need to, if the drive goes down, it is you got to make sure you got a good image file,
Hmm.
because if you don't, and there is no disk that comes with your TriCaster, so
Right.
on the new version there's a recovery. Well, actually, on yours too, there was a way to recover, but you found out, what's going on with updates on why you need to have an
Yeah.
image file. But the main
Yeah.
thing is, if you load anything on like a Cronus, make sure you don't have it doing anything actively. Make sure it's dumb and you have to manually force it to do something. So, matter of fact, that
Hmm.
reminds me, I've added a bunch of stuff. I probably need to make another image file for it, and just
Right.
make a backup drive for it. Let's talk a little bit about Xbox 360. Of course, Xbox 360 is all over the news with Connect. And matter of fact, when I was in the store yesterday, I saw stacks of PlayStation 3s. I saw stacks of Wii's. And when I asked the lady where the Xbox 360s were, she says they're sold out. And haven't seen Xbox 360 sold out in years. And that just told me something. I mean, there was a mountain of Wii's, a mountain of PlayStation 3s, and no Xbox 360s. But here on, oops, we're trying to show the live video. It looks to me like the Xbox 360 hacking case was dismissed. And interesting development. This 28-year-old student named Matthew Crippen was set to go. Well, actually, they were in trial. About the third day of the event, based on some evidence being introduced that had not been produced in discovery, the lawyer said, "Hey, we're going to dismiss this thing." And so obviously, this guy was modding Xbox. So we talked a little bit about this last week. What the difference was, why he wasn't protected underneath this jailbreaking stuff, was because he was actually modding them. So, I'm not a legal beagle, but if they dismiss the case, does that mean they can come back and get him? They can go after him. Can they retry this?
I don't know. I mean, there's a duty to be forthright in discovery, and if they can prove that that didn't happen, I would think that they would have sufficient grounds for appeal to a higher court. Um, that in essence, that's a get out of jail free card.
Well, the Microsoft lawyer dismissed it. They basically cut him loose, and so he's at least off the hook now. So it is an interesting development. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know if this guy's going to be able to go back. I wouldn't recommend they go back and start modding Xboxes anymore. But I got to thinking about this more, and maybe it's my age. And like there was a big article about the Black Ops, how it had made it on the peer-to-peer scene the before it was released, and it was available via BitTorrent. And
Hmm.
this thing had done like 100,000 downloads or something like that. It's probably going to end up being a top 10 stolen game. But maybe it's my age, but what's wrong with paying $50 for a game? I guess I guess I don't. And maybe people buy so many games they can't afford, but you know, I don't know. What is the average gamer? How many games does the average gamer have? Does anybody know that number? And it is at this point in time, I don't really. I guess free's free, but I don't get it anymore. I really don't. And maybe it's just I like to have that disc. I like to have that physical product.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
we're
it's probably a time and life issue as much as anything, Todd. I certainly, my attitudes have certainly changed over the years, um, and a recognition of if you look at the total cost of anything like that, really tend to move towards supported products and good documentation. And if a company is offering that, that's part of the total cost of ownership or the total value of ownership that you have.
Yeah, I don't know, Rob. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, if you're talking about, the actual disc, I mean, I think it's clearly that people are moving towards just downloading the app. I mean, and not. I mean, that's where this is going. I mean, so is that your point? Is that
No, no. I just, I guess my point is these people are going through all this trouble to mod their
yeah.
Xboxes, and then they're going to all this trouble to download a game over peer to peer.
Mm,
I look at the value of my time, and you sit there and you set the download to go up. You got to burn it to a disk, and you got to do whatever else you got to have hacked to get in the thing running. That to me is worth $50, and just the time expent. I guess maybe other people don't think the same way, but I really today, maybe call me cynical, but I really look at things from a hour by hour. Is this time that I'm spending on this worth my value? Is this time worth, basically, do I need to waste an hour stealing something when it's really, if I do that something more constructive, I'm going to get paid more and might as well just pay for that. I just don't, maybe when I was younger, I begrudged the cost of paying X number of dollars for a software program. And I guess maybe it was an economic issue because maybe I didn't have the money to buy
yeah, I think
the,
that's
is
part of
that-
it. It's also the challenge, right? Can I do something to beat Microsoft or something like that? I think that there's other motivations that come into play here on why people would do something like that.
I've been real harsh with my kids. My son got a new phone, and he was listening to some music, and I'm like, where did that come from? And he said, well, my friend gave it to me. So then we had this discussion about music and sneaker netting, and I'm trying to make him understand he shouldn't be doing that. I know teenagers will be teenagers and that they're going to share stuff, and there's stuff that they'll do that I won't know about. But when it comes to my attention, I'm saying, okay, you need to delete that and let's talk about it. And you get an allowance if you want to buy that. You can go online, 99 cents. You can buy that. Make you understand the value of this stuff. But I guess today everyone's so used to getting stuff free. This whole adage of ripping stuff off is the way to go. If I didn't pay for software, if I didn't pay for, I would save thousands and thousands of dollars a year. But at the same point, I want those companies to keep on making that software that I like to use, and I
Yeah.
feel that I need to support it. Speaking of software, man, I'm proud of Revision 3. Um, they they have come out with a media center plugin. I'm insanely jealous. I've heard that it's fantastic. Rob, I'm sure you're happy to see this. How I don't have any idea how much work went into building this plugin. Do you have any idea or insight into how much work that they did to do this?
Yeah, it's actually not that bad, Todd. I think
Really?
you would be surprised. The whole platform is built on, XML. So it's just getting the kit, uh, and I think there is a developer's kit for building a channel in the Media Center platform, and it's fairly mature. It's been around since the mid 2000s.
Right.
Um, and it's really not that difficult to do. So there's lots of content companies that have built these things out for plugging into Media Center. So that whole platform was originally built as almost like an app plug-in type of platform for, gosh, it's been a long time now, 6 years, 5 years, something like that.
Yeah.
So I've been talking to Rev3 about their content in it, in the Media Center platform for a long time. All their content's in there now. as well as your content as well, um, through the Zune experience.
Right.
So to add this kind of plug-in into Windows Media Center is really not that difficult. I can probably send you over some links to the dev kit for that if you're interested. And then
Absolutely.
also, starting here probably in mid-January, the Windows Media Center is going to be it's going to be an embedded platform, which means it's going to be embedded into almost like a set-top box. So so you'll be
Ooh,
able to buy Windows Media Center as a almost like a Roku box of sorts.
very cool.
So
I think someone actually, and I've got it. It's on another computer. Someone built something for me about 6 months ago that does something for my show on Windows Media Center, and I need to go back and relook at that thing. So I may actually have a plugin already for at least for my show that someone built. I just, it's gosh, you get so many irons in the fire. But I sent this over to Angelo last night, and I'm like, hurry the hell up with the Samsung app, getting that done. We need to get, we need to move on to a couple of other things, and this is one thing that I want. And I've got one of our developers working heavily right now on Android, and then we're going to move him right into Windows Phone 7, and then we're going to backfill on iPhone later. But if this Windows Media Center thing is a 2-day job or something like that, then I'll basically tell the guys preempt and go with it. But the funny thing about programmers, um, you have to use an interesting form of math with them. Whenever they say, "Oh, this is a 3-day job," I used to multiply by 3. Now I've actually changed that and I multiply by 5. And that is generally a very good estimate when it comes to programmers when they tell you this is a 3-day job. Okay, 3-day job means that the shell is written. Next 3 days is where the graphic goes in. The next 3 days is where you do beta testing. The next 3 days, yeah. So no. It's a 15-day job, and you plan the hours accordingly. So yeah, I'm glad that they've done this. They've gotten great press over it. They're doing some good things over there, and they've got a model that is they just added a show here last week. They added, what was the name of it? Another show, Sign with them. But Jim's doing a good job over at Revision 3,
yeah,
and he's I think
yeah, well, not a good network there, no question about it.
yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about this new BitTorrent-based DNS. Have you guys heard about this?
BitTorrent. Okay, this cannot be good. This
Well,
does not sound smart.
what's happening is that the United States Homeland Security seized a number of domains just before Thanksgiving to stop the proliferation of sites that had copyright material. Well, obviously that pissed those guys off in a big way, and there was also a BitTorrent site that was taken down as well. So, in direct response to the main seizures by U.S. authorities, during the last few days, a group of established, this is an interesting word, established enthusiasts have started working on a DNS system that can't be touched by any government institution. So, what they're going to do is they are going to come up with their own DNS system. They're going to come up with their own top level domain called .p2p. And this is going to be completely 100% powered by BitTorrent and peer-to-peer services. So the DNS serving of the top-level domain P2P will be maintained by anyone that's basically running one of these BitTorrent clients. And they have already found a group that is going to be the registrar for the peer-to-peer domain names. And within the next couple of weeks, basically what you'll be able to buy is a virtual DNS routing and a top level domain called .p2p that essentially would not be under the control of the internet and very hard to shut down. And they're going to use OpenNIC, which is an open-based community DNS network. OpenNIC is going to be the one that's going to do maintain the top level domain P2P. Now they already have .geek, .free, .null, and several other top domains, so they're a good fit for this. Um, they're taking it to the man in any way they can. So, what's your thoughts?
Well, I think this is really interesting. Also, on a similar kind of vein, I heard that Bram Cohen is working on P2P live streaming too.
Right.
So you've been following that
Yep.
as well. But yeah, supposedly he's within a few months of being able to roll out live peer-to-peer streaming, which will be a really, really fascinating thing to see happen. He's really kind of breaking some barriers here, I think, between these two things, and we'll see how that works out. I think
that was Dino's original model.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So it's interesting to see how this kind of plays out, and how this kind of maybe over the long run has an impact on these tiered bandwidth issues that we're seeing around this whole network neutrality kind of topic. If this is a way to maybe mitigate some of that.
and I find it interesting that a lot of these sites that are susceptible right now, that are in trouble, they're moving their .coms to .me. They're actually even, believe it or not, I just don't. This is unfathomable to me, and maybe it's just because I'm a true red-blooded American. But some people are actually using the .ch domain. They're using a Chinese domain of all things. Good Lord, and talking about moving servers into China. To me that is just wow. I mean, I just don't.
In this world, no question about it.
Oh my gosh! So, China is definitely has copyright laws supposedly, but they are more about supporting business as well, quote unquote. Ha ha ha.
Well,
Yeah, government controlled business. But here's this is a very what do you think, Andy? But buy your .p2p and put up just some website, and the government can't take you down. Of course, they can take you down. You may restrain your freedom to your to your
My initial reaction was the criticality of DNS and the wild and woolly world of BitTorrent and trackers and so forth. It's really, really interesting. I think one of the things that the U.S. That there's enough international dissatisfaction and pressure in some circles about the U.S. role in regular DNS, that it may be the technology may in fact overtake the politics of the situation, and may actually serve a good function.
Now, one thing that we've also heard, and this is kind of non-related to the previous subject on this .p2p, is that this morning PayPal announced that they have discontinued any support for the folks over at WikiLeaks. I applaud them. I applaud Amazon for shutting down their EC2 instance as well. But it was in the news earlier this week that the Russians have their eyes on the WikiLeaks, because apparently WikiLeaks has some Russian documents that they want to put on the street. I'm going to tell you, the United States, they work within the law, and it's very interesting, to see what's been happening from a legislative standpoint and the maneuvering that they've made. But when you say that the Russians are looking at WikiLeaks, all of a sudden, if we start seeing in the news that people are starting to come up missing or ending up in, with their cars exploding, I wouldn't be too surprised. The Russians play by a whole different set of rules, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with people that, if I was, first of all, let me make a statement. I do not endorse, support, or even want to even give them any credit whatsoever on what they have done, just from that standpoint. But if I was involved, if I knew people that were involved with WikiLeaks, I would tell them it might be a good time to go into hiding.
Yeah. Time for the witness protection thing.
Yeah, they have pissed off a lot of powerful people, haven't they?
Yes, they have, and it's just when you when you start doing this kind of stuff, I don't think too many Americans would be, would say too much if people started coming up missing that were involved in that project. Some people would definitely scream bloody murder, but it very, very well could happen. Not endorsing violence or anything like that, but it's just a pure fact of the matter that the Russians get pissed off, or let's even the Mossad, if the Israelis get pissed off, you will come up missing.
Well, let's also say that from what I've heard about the whole WikiLeaks thing, is that they have gone to pretty significant effort in working with some some of the bigger news agencies to go through and redact a lot of things that are in these documents. So I think it's really, it depends on how you look at it, I guess. I mean, this is a little bit of a form of journalism, at though I say at a whole different level. But from what I understand, what this process is they have gone through quite a bit of effort to redact data that's in these documents that would actually put real people at risk. So I think to talk about the topic, I think we need to be fair about it to a certain extent and say that they have put forth quite a bit of an effort to try and filter these things as much as possible. And I think a lot of what's in these things, though, shares some embarrassing things about some of our political leaders around the world, and what they really think of other leaders around the world. And I think that's dangerous right there, right? That the truth comes out. And I think that's what a lot of this is it's the truth that's coming out, and a lot of people don't want the other side to hear the truth, I think, in some regards.
I guess from my perspective, Rob, based on my prior occupation in the Navy, it just it rifles me the wrong way.
Sure. No, it totally makes sense. But it's interesting, I mean, it's our governments are doing a lot of things that we don't know about. And maybe we shouldn't know about them, but I also wonder, though, if things would be done differently if things were more, open about things.
Half the time, I think there's a statement made in a movie back many years ago that said basically you can't handle the truth, and I think the general public, in many instances, would not be. And the problem is there is let's say there is a document that is released that the government doesn't want released. A single document is just like is just like anything else when you are talking about a subject. If you don't have the full story, if you don't have the other 5 pieces that went along to create that document, which would be accessible to people that were allowed to have that type of access, they would have the access to that backstory information, and then that other document just feeds that. So many times stuff can be taken out of context and construed incorrectly, and so that's a big problem with this situation, that they're getting bits and pieces of stuff, and then many times there isn't the full back channel story that goes along with why something was said or why some policy's been placed.
Yeah.
So and then what that ends up doing is that ends up confusing even the average person. They read this, well, what the heck are they meaning there? And if they don't have the other 5 emails or whatever else that went along with it, it is definitely a challenge. And the volume of stuff that the government produces is obviously insanely high, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. And obviously, the individual that they think released this, he'll definitely pay a price for that with his liberty, and fully
Well,
support.
he's already in jail, I guess.
Yes, he is.
I think one of the things, he definitely definitely shouldn't be making any long-term plans, or I guess his long-term plans to be made for him, right?
Right, big rocks, small rocks out of big rocks.
Yeah, there's big plans for
That's
him,
right.
I think.
Big ones and the little ones in the hot sun. I think that a lot of the most spectacular, the most embarrassing, the most looking stupid, probably aren't damaging, because people, people will do stupid things. People will do embarrassing things.
Yeah, well, that's exactly.
The damage is in the mundane.
Right.
when someone comes in there and they redact it to the best of their knowledge,
Yeah,
and because you're talking about hundreds of thousands of individual decisions that someone has to make,
yeah,
and when it's not any individual thing that's being redacted that is that is the issue. It's in the aggregate that
Right.
exposes capabilities and techniques and methods, and that's the real danger of it in my opinion.
You know,
well,
I
I think what, from what I've heard, I think that the danger of it is that we all learn that certain countries around the world can't be trusted and are corrupt, right? That we try and have an alliance with, and I think that's the big thing that I've gotten out of it is that
Yeah, but is that a news
these.
flash?
Well, it's more of a confirmation where before it was kind of a rumor, right?
Yeah.
So, it was like, well, people were saying that it was possible that certain leader in certain country is corrupt or whatever, but it's always been a rumor. Now it's kind of confirmed, right? So,
Yeah.
so you know, so how does that change U.S. foreign policy? Does that mean that we publicly don't trust that country that we're in this alliance with? I mean, I'm thinking that there could be some positive things that come out of this too, but there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be upset. But if you look at how the mainstream media has covered this, they've really focused on kind of the scandalous stuff.
The
Certain
embarrassing.
leaders. Yeah, it's the embarrassing stuff is what they focused on, and I totally agree with you, Andy, that that's not really all that damaging, other than in probably our relationship with them based on the understanding of that kind of weird behavior that they have. And I think that that's where the danger is that these people have been embarrassed.
well, I think
Um,
too it's the stuff that you haven't seen. And just for the record, I have not been to the WikiLeaks site, nor will I go.
yeah,
Um, the I think it's the other content that's there that will be taken by every country in the world, and
sure.
they will go through that piece by piece by piece by piece,
Yeah,
and it lowers our negotiating strength. It affects the way we can do business and the ability to do private conversations between countries and working. We all know there's
yeah,
back channel deals that go on. I think from anyone that's traveled in most any country in Asia will understand that you always need to have, $100 bill in your pocket to pay off the cop when he stops you. You just go to Mexico and try to drive down to. Of course, I wouldn't advise that these days. You might not make it to your destination, but in this day and age, you almost know that many third world countries you go to, you better keep some money on the side so that when you get stopped, you got to pay that bribe off. It's just a daily life, and I think corruption. Um, if we even look internally, there might be a little of that going on here in the United States too. But if it's rampant anywhere you travel in Asia, with the exception of Japan and a few other countries, but most any place that you go, you know that there's money talks and the BS walks, and that's how business gets done. You come with a
That
bag full of money, you want to do business.
that's a famous three-finger passport slide.
So one
It's
question.
a little unnatural until you learn what it means.
So kind of one question, really, I think in the broader scope of things is how does this change how countries talk to each other? I mean, is there going to be less documentation that comes in paper form, or electronic form? Is this leaks going to really kind of suppress the documentation of things that are going on, so there's less chance that things could get leaked, right?
I think there's
I
going to
mean,
be a lot more
that's the danger of
communications via the phone versus over email. I would imagine people would be a lot less apt to put stuff on paper. Or
yeah, yeah,
one thing they're going to be sure of is they're going to be very careful on how they describe people. I would think that
yeah,
any company, any company today, if you are writing email and you're talking, you need to remember that at some point, Uncle Sam could come in with a search warrant and say, "We're going to look at your email," and that you always have to keep that in mind
yeah.
anytime. And people, I'm sure, purposely don't try to do stuff, but we live in a digital world, that's for sure. Now that moves right into a segue into it's being discussed on Wired that the feds are warrantlessly tracking American credit cards in real time. And what they're saying here is that federal law enforcement has been tracking Americans in real time using credit cards, loyalty cards, and travel reservations without getting a court order. A new document released under a government sunshine request shows the document obtained by security researcher Christopher Hohagen explains how so-called hot watch orders allow real-time tracking of individuals in a criminal investigation via credit card companies, rental card agencies. All this, all they have to do for agents can get real-time information by writing their own subpoena, which then can be followed up by an order from a judge that the surveillance not be disclosed. The agent can also go the traditional route by getting a search warrant, going to a judge providing probable cause, but it suggests that the normal practice is to ask for all historical records on an account. So, in other words, they're saying that they're having much, much easier access to our credit card transaction data and how we're digitally spending money. Um, I understand if a judge feels it is necessary and should issue a search warrant or a wiretap, that's one thing. But for an agent to be able to write up their own subpoena, it's kind of, to me, it's like, well, aren't we getting into an area here that's very isn't it? We have a constitutional issue here.
I think absolutely we do. If I understand what you related, it almost relates to a two-man control type of safeguard that you'd have in other situations.
Right.
Yeah, I just really fear that we're losing our constitutional rights more and more all the time, and I'm not quite sure what's really driving that. I mean, I think it was all started based on fear, right, of
Yeah.
terrorism, but it seems to have taken on a life of its own now, and I'm not really as concerned about terrorism as maybe we all used to be years ago. I think it's still there, and I think it can happen, but I don't think we should live our lives fearful of it. I think that's making them win.
You know,
It's to cause us to change what we do, and unfortunately, I think our government's taking advantage of that.
we've got laws in place to, that if a agency, a FBI, if the state police or someone is doing an IRS is doing an investigation on someone, and they need to say, hey, we need to subpoena these guys' records. We need to put a wiretap on. There are long-standing,
Mm-hmm.
long-standing ways to do that,
Yeah,
and they got
legal.
to. And the judge goes and says, yes, you've got probable cause. Go ahead and do all of the above. And that's the case. But to think here that this partially can be bypassed just because they're going to look at credit card data and rental car stuff. Um, I'm sorry. This continues to erode. It scares me.
Yeah.
It really
Was
does.
that administrative ruling, or how did that come into practice? How did this practice emerge or was uncovered?
It's called a hot watch order, and they only make one example here. Let's say
Hmm.
the document suggests that the normal practice is to ask for all historic records on an account or an individual from a credit card company, since getting store records is generally legally easy. Then the agent sends a request for any and all records and information relating directly or indirectly to any and all ongoing and future transactions or events relating to any and all of the following persons, entities, etc., etc. That gets them a live feed of the transaction data. So in other words,
Right, right, right.
so they legally go say, I need the credit card history of this guy. Then they step it up a notch and they get them basically. I don't know how they're getting a live feed, but there's a PowerPoint presentation on how hot watch surveillance orders work on this website on Wired. You can go through and read
Yeah.
this,
Hmm.
but you know it is interesting that they're doing this. And, obviously, I'm sure for the majority of the time, nothing is being abused. But what if you got a guy that is fishing, and he's fishing for data that maybe he shouldn't have access to? I don't know. It's a little bit unnerving from my standpoint that they're allowed to be able to do that. in
Yeah,
the
and
way
who's
that they
actually
are.
making those decisions that it's okay to do that?
Right.
It's kind of the same thing with the TSA, right?
Yeah.
Who's the one pulling the strings on all these changes and decisions?
I told you what happened with me when I got searched on the way home, asking the TSA agent if he was wearing a radiation badge to see how much radiation he was getting off that machine he was standing by next all day. He kind of blinked at me a little bit. I don't know if he didn't think about it, and I set a little alarm off in his head, but I think that I made him a little nervous. We're gonna run real long here, guys. I have just a couple of more things that I want to talk about. One is this an editorial that I read. It goes back to Netflix that made me sit up my seat and really think long and hard about where things are going from the perspective of a uh, traditional way of doing business. If we accept the fact that the major studios are not going to lay down and go away without a fight, and we understand now that Netflix is willing to pay up to $100,000 per same day release television shows. There is the worry that Netflix is going to get itself cornered into a box and essentially uh, become another Time Warner, Cox cable provider, and where the content producers are going to say, let's go ahead and put them in the same classification. And the basic worry is that Netflix is going to cause the online distribution channel to evolve along the same lines as traditional television, and that they're concerned that the greed to make money by Netflix and, of course, the greed by the producers is going to push the pendulum so far that once Netflix gets done and doing what they're doing over the next couple of years in growth, that we're going to have nothing more than a cable provider from Netflix. They're going to be your Time Warner, and subject to the same type of pricing that we get now. What do you think the chances of that happening, or do you think that can you see where that logic follows through?
Hmm. I don't know. I think that the whole area of what those guys are trying to do is so different from the current broadcast model. I mean, I would say that the one that there's the most risk of that would be something like a Hulu. Um, I mean, it seems like that's the direction that Hulu is trying to take, is the same model that broadcast TV is today, but just taking that content and funnel it through the web. And actually, the big difference would be that the content that's delivered through Hulu, which is more of an ad-supported thing, would not allow you to skip through the commercials. And I think that's really the long-term agenda that's really eroding the broadcast business today is people fast forwarding through commercials. In the long run, that's going to cause a problem for the monetization of broadcast. Um, so if Hulu and Netflix, let's say maybe Netflix gets into ad-supported streaming at some point down the line, then yeah, I totally agree. But the current model, is, based on subscription with no ads. I mean, that's a totally different kind of paradigm.
Yeah, it is. Andy, any thoughts?
I think that the greater concern is how, as Netflix shifts over to distribution, and as the bandwidth that is going to consume, if there is a tipping point there, that the ISPs and the carriers are going to they obviously can't continue to provide those facilities, at low cost or no charge, and so they're going to want to get into to this as well. So they're going to be stirred into the mix. So I think that's going to complicate it.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, to keep us not going long, got one last thing here, and this is back to Google. Google is beginning to email extension developers to get ready for the Chrome Web Store. On top of that, they're having a big announcement on December 6th, I believe, where
Yeah.
supposedly the Chrome OS netbook is going to be announced. Now, if that ends up being the case, boy, oh boy, here we go. This could be we're off to the races, and Microsoft is once again being impacted from a competition standpoint. But this, I don't know. What do you guys think? Anything? Of course, Rob, I know you're like, oh man, here we go, some more Google shit. So, Andy,
It's all right.
Well,
They can do what they want to do. I mean, it's fine.
they can do what they want to do. One of the things the bloom is off the rose here. I got my iPad download. The iOS, the new revision for iOS.
yeah,
All of a sudden, I find this Game Center thing that I don't like. And so I'm trying to Google how to get rid of this thing, and it turns out you can't. All you can do is move it off to the back page where you never flip over. And then, but some of the comments is that recognize this. This is not a computer. It's a convenient cash cow milking machine, and you're the cow. and, and deliverative content, and I'm like everybody else. I'll drop $8 or $10 a month on these nifty little $2 apps, and I'll keep them for a while, and then I'll get rid of them. And it's this is brilliant. So the emphasis on mobile, I think, with Chrome, it's going to be like another generation, maybe a little more open than this device here.
Speaking of cash cow, I got to tell you guys a little sideline that actually impacted my wallet. My 6-year-old, he's I call him my little hacker. He's very good at. I have a very long password for my iTunes password, and he apparently he saw me put it in one time because just last Saturday I got my bill from iTunes, and I about fell out of my chair. There was a $6.99 app that had been purchased. So, okay, that wasn't so bad, but the $6.99 app also, he had purchased some credits to play some games. My bill was $106.95. And
Whoa.
Wow.
yeah, he's 6. He had no clue. What do you do? You take his allowance away for 2 years or 3 years or whatever it takes for him to pay it back. What do you do but to suck it up and blame yourself. Thank God it wasn't $1,000. I'd be calling Apple and begging for forgiveness. But yeah, he whacked me for $106, and I play the game, have fun, but you can absolutely guarantee the password's been changed to something he will never ever be able to figure out. And yeah, cash cow, they got me. They got me pretty good.
Ka-ching.
And I didn't even show his mom because she would have just, oh, it would not have been pretty. So I said, okay, this is between you and me, or at least until now. Yeah, and he had to really, for a 6-year, I had to really explain to him what he had done. To him, it just looked like virtual cool stuff to buy, on the
Oh, yeah.
game, and he had no money. He was no idea he was spending real money.
Just like going to the candy store.
Absolutely. Had not a clue, So
Yep.
yeah, crazy stuff. So yeah, Andy, yeah, I definitely supported the Apple machine the past week. And we'll see what Google Chrome has to come up with their OS keyboard. It's going to be one of those things that they say there's only going to be a limited run. There's only going to be 10,000, supposedly 10,000 units available. I'm sure they're probably going to go like hotcakes. People are going to buy them just to get a hold of them. But well, we'll see. We'll see where they go.
It's going to be interesting. It's built on Linux, so let's see what they do to the UI experience. I mean, that's the thing I'm curious to see is how they've created a good kind of user experience around it.
And if it's, if it has any usability where you can do, spreadsheets. Of course, I don't necessarily like working in Google Docs. I'm still like to work in Microsoft quite a bit in Word, but I know a lot of people have shifted to using Google Docs and everything else. You
Sure.
guys, did you? I know that you guys got anything for the anything additional?
I have one question for you, for either one of you. Is your birthday April 11th, 1954?
Nope.
No.
Time of
Apparently, apparently, do you know the significance of this day, of
A-
this date?
April 11th, 1954. Well, I'm googling.
Apparently, what they did, there was a study of a group of historians that went through, I think it was 300,000 items of recorded history on days when famous people were born, famous people died, wars started, wars ended, things were patented, discovery. On April 11th, 1954, absolutely nothing happened. And apparently, it's the only day in recorded history that nothing happened.
Oh,
So
wow.
no one big died. Nothing was
Not,
released. No sign. That's
Sounds like a
funny.
pretty boring day to me.
yeah, and except for, I mean, this is like for famous people. This isn't for individuals, but I mean, there was a chance that this would apply to both of you. So,
Yeah, I'm reading it. Computer calculates that the most boring day in history was April 11th, 1954.
I'm glad I wasn't born on that day.
Oh, funny. 300 million facts about people, places, and events, and it says nothing happened. Wow.
300 million. Okay.
All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. For those of you that are watching us either post show, feel free to send your comments to geeknews@gmail.com. Make sure you entitle them the morning show, and that way we can make sure we get them into questions on the follow one. We're gonna have the 24-hour podcast, guys, here on December 18th. So, Rob, I plan on having you same time, same bad channel. Well, maybe we may have to slide just a little bit. But
Okay.
Andy, I think, and we'll probably focus on Zune and Microsoft that day. Andy, I want you and probably Jeffrey on sometime on the 18th. I hope your schedule allows. I know that's
Oh,
close to Christmas,
absolutely.
where
Absolutely.
where we can discuss CES in depth. Did you? Oh, I didn't even show it. What did you think of our? I'm getting a lot of feedback from somebody. Did you guys see our TPN TV site? What do you guys think of? Rob, did you see this?
Yeah, I did. It actually looks fantastic.
So this little part up here where the videos are embedded, Angelo
Hmm.
had one heck of a time with this code to get this right. And it took him a while. The rest of it was pretty easy, but this code up here to do what I wanted it to do, once we have more than 4 videos up, there'll be a little rocker arm to go right or left. And this was all copied. You know where I copied this site off of? I'll show you guys here where I copied it. Let me go to Conan's site. Go to Conan O'Brien's site, and
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been to Conan's site. Yeah.
I
Okay.
copied this straight from Conan's site. So it's similar. You can see the headers. I got the Twitter up in the right hand corner. We've got the logo. I've got videos down below. So if we do a quick switch back and forth here, let me actually bring this up. You can see that Todd absolutely copied Conan's site. So he's got a lot more ads on his and some more stuff. Of course, we didn't do all this, but I thought
So
Conan.
that he has a podcast?
He has. I think his show is obviously he's back on whatever channel he's on, and he's been.
Yeah, but he also has a podcast
Oh,
that's
really?
going for a couple weeks now, but he's not actually on that podcast. It's actually his producers.
All right,
So you can see it right there.
but
Yeah.
oh, funny Team Coco podcast. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So is that an officially sanctioned one, or is this some
Yeah.
guy?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Oh, it is.
Wow, so they're getting paid to do that. I need a gig like that. Um, I need a set like this. Of course, I don't know how I'd put computer monitors in the chairs, yeah, and bring people in. So, anyway, this is where the action is going to be here. Less than 30 days at CES 2011. Exciting stuff. We've got one hell of a program lined up for everybody. It's going to be good. It really, really is. And Andy, did you get caught up on all the email?
I have not actually. I've not looked at email here today. I've been delving in TriCaster land.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad you're enjoying. So,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
all right, guys, we'll get
All
off in here.
right.
Oh, go
Yeah.
ahead, Andy. I
All
mean,
right.
All right.
hang on,
Go
Rob.
ahead.
Go ahead, Rob.
All right. Yeah, I was just gonna say, just last week I got up webtalkradio.com again.
Oh, so let's go look and see what you actually did over there. Web talk. Oh, I gotta
So
spell it right.
it's not fully built out yet, but it's back up, and I'm in the process of building it out again.
Webtalkradio.com. And let's bring up the oh yeah, it's back up and it looks like you're using a pretty generic theme at this point. You'll have to find yourself a good media theme, Rob.
Well, just kind of move with this one, and the next gen I'll update it. But I just want to build out the content here.
Very
So
cool. I'm great. I'm glad to see you back in the saddle for a better word.
yeah.
So, all right, gents, thanks so much. It's been fun, and we'll do this again. Everyone, take care. Thanks for hanging out with us, and until next time, as we say here in Hawaii,
Hello.
aloha.
All right.